Okay. So who wants
Maybe I
to?
should show my reports first since you logged in as me.
Yeah.
It's going to be time.
And actually, mine I can look at. Mine's done well enough. I can be logged in from anywhere. Like I could run it in your.
Okay. So it might be interesting to know that, hold on. I'll just say one thing about me. When I use this thing, I don't go to home or favorites or dashboards or any of that stuff. It's too confusing for me. I just go to catalog and I look right over here. I just like as few options as possible. That's how my brain works. But so I'm going to show you an example of a report or two that I created. Before this class, we put them in the shared location. And just pay attention while I go there. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of levels in here. It's in the community. It's in reports. We're a consortium, so it's under consortia. Here's a whole bunch of other consortias. Whatever the plural of that is. We're CTW. And here's where we make things available for each other. We each have our own folder here. So if like Rebecca creates something and she wants me to check it out, she'll put it in here and I can go look at it. And we also made a fourth one just for this class. But as you can see, this whole thing gets really long. All right. Did someone call it class save folder?
Yeah, I made that yesterday.
Is there anything in there?
If we wanted to save things later on.
Oh, okay.
But there's nothing in it now.
All right. All right, so this is one that I use all the time. I guess this is just a show and tell type of thing. This is our fund snapshot. So this is a report that gets sent out to our selectors periodically throughout the year to allow them to monitor the funds that they are responsible for spending down. It's pretty simple. It has descriptive fields and measurements. It uses the fund's expenditure subject area. We weren't getting into filters yet, but these are a few simple filters that just indicate the fiscal year and a few other things. And this is what it looks like. It's a very nice report. So it has a lot of measurements in it. These are all allocation, encumbrance, expenditure, cash balance. Those are all pre-calculated measures that come from the fund transactions fact. Here's all the measures. You'll notice what I mentioned before that, okay, so I have all these descriptive fields. That's just how I designed it. But when you look at the results, there's only one column that's really important for people to see. So I customized it just to show the fund name and the cash balances over there. I don't know. Am I achieving the purpose of this demonstration? Is it just a brief, like, show a report?
I think so.
I mean,
we're going to show about.
just like some examples of reports?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kinds of things you might.
So that's one type. That's one report I made. The other one I wanted to show you, I believe I stole this one, the next one. I don't think I made it, which is great because you can do that. There are tons of reports available to either just take or modify. So this is a counter report for JR1. As I mentioned before, you have to load that data. You have to make sure you have this counter data in there. But once you do, Alma is ready to allow you to report on it. So this is the usage data subject area. I don't know. It's better to look at the results, I guess. What?
Yeah, I know.
I've never seen that before. What? Did it log me out or
I
something?
wonder if it timed
No, I
out.
did the same error. Really?
Oh wow, that's a new one. All right, so if that happens to you, this is what I would do. Close out of everything. Like if you ever get bumped out of analytics, start right at the beginning from Alma. Don't try to go right back into analytics. That's not going to work. Make sure you're logged into Alma, and then go back in. And that usually fixes everything. All right, so back to the shared folder. It disappeared. Wait a minute.
Report from the folder.
Did anyone see me click this X?
No.
Well, good thing it was just a copy. All right, I'll try running mine. Hopefully that one doesn't go away. All right, so my reports are in my dashboard. They're not really supposed to be there. At first I didn't know what a dashboard was, and I put all my reports under dashboard, but usually they should go under my folders. Usage, thank you. JR1, that's the one. Okay, please don't do that again.
That's a good lesson in that. You want to save your reports in multiple places.
I guess I've honestly never had something just go poof before. Hopefully that's like a really one-time thing. But here, this is good. I made this report to show Oxford Journals as a platform. What were the JR1 counts for it? And it's nice. Gives you a monthly breakdown and titles and identifiers over here. So I don't know. Is that enough? Who wants to go next? Okay.
So Joe, maybe you'll get into this later, Joe. Like with those counts that are there,
Yes.
will Alma perform calculations on those? Like you want to sum them from starting in a period.
Like if you wanted to know instead of a monthly breakdown, like annual.
Yeah, like you want to just add it together, like what it sees in those various columns. Like, or do you have to take it to Excel or some other mathematical tool to do that?
It depends on what kind of chart you're working with.
Okay.
If you're working with like this here, this is a pivot table and you can have it make totals for rows and columns.
Yeah.
If you're working in just your regular standard report, I believe you can only get totals for columns.
Right. So
But
generally
yes, you
speaking,
can
probably
get
have to put in
totals.
something else to perform calculations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless I'd have to investigate this one, but the measurement that provides those monthlies, it might be specific, like a monthly, designed to give you monthly, but there may also be a measure that says annual.
Oh, I
and
see.
Drag
Okay.
that over, but you'd have to look in the folder and see
But it
what.
would have to have that in order.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if that's not available as a pre-calculated measure, then you would have to do something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So just you can do sum totals on fields within a column. So like if you have multiple years in a column, you can sum each year and then sum the whole column itself. Okay, there's ways to do that.
Okay.
I think my report is general enough that I'll be able to run it in Khan's instance of analytics, but we will see. Yes, it is. So this is just this is a very simple report showing how many loans there were in each location during a particular fiscal year and which patron group checked them out. So we have the measurement column over here, loans, patron groups is in this column, location names are here, and then fiscal year is the column that starts us off. So if we just scroll down some, I think I only did a couple of fiscal years here because unfortunately our migrated loan data that came over from Voyager didn't come over quite correctly. So I think our last accurate loan data for the fulfillment functional area is going to be inaccurate prior to fiscal year 2017, which is why I put the limitation on fiscal years for this report. And this report is actually the basic report that I used to create a pivot table that lets you view the information more easily. So in Joe's previous report, you had the organization, you'll notice the organization was a little bit different. And this report right here can pretty easily be made into a display that looks very similar to that, so you can see a little bit easier the fiscal years and comparing them and comparing the data for each fiscal year to the one prior to it. So yeah, very simple report. Also, one thing to mention, very briefly, you know, when I opened this up, I said I thought that it was general enough to run in Khan's instance of ALMA. Depending on the filters that you set on reports, sometimes it can break a report for another school. So if, say, I wanted to filter by I wanted to put out a filter and show only the items that had loans from a location that was specific to Trinity, if I opened up this report in anything other than Trinity's instance of analytics, it would not return any results because that particular piece of data does not exist. So if you want to make a report that can be viewed in multiple different schools, you have to make sure that you either have no filters or the filters are very general and can be applied to everything. So, I think Todd is the last person.
I can show one. Do you want to go first?
Doesn't have to be Trinity's instance, so it
Oh yeah, let me go because I don't have to.
either way.
Yeah. This will be another very short one.
Show what happens first when you try to open it in Khan's instance.
Okay.
One of those walking symbols.
So I think I put mine in the wrong place. Yes. Okay. I forgot to put mine in the training folder. I'll move it over. So this was just something in the electronic inventory folder, just to show you some simple things that you can get there. It's slow. Sometimes, especially, I've noticed, oh, here it goes. I don't know why this one is a little slow, but I have noticed often when I open up analytics for the first time, the very first report that I try to run and get the results on it will take forever, and then they tend to speed up. So this one, I was just kind of curious what numbers were, how many portfolios, no, actually not portfolios, how many titles were in each electronic collection. The fact that there's some with no collection, it means there's standalone, and people that don't work with electronic inventory a lot, portfolio is the term they use for like a particular title and interface. So let's say you have an ebook and you get it from Springer. That ebook title from Springer is a portfolio. It's kind of like the equivalent of a holdings record for inventory. Sorry, for physical. So we have all of our collections, and then I also sorted it by material type. So there are electronic books, electronic manuscripts, transcripts, dissertations, documents. And you can see how many, you can see the name of the collection, and then you can see whether or not it's a community zone collection, or if it says no, it means it's a local collection. And one other interesting thing to point out is I wanted it by titles and not by portfolios. So there was a count for the number of portfolios, but I wanted titles. So I actually took something from Bibliographic. I can find it. There's no counts in bibliographic. I took MMS because that's like a record number, and you're only going to have one per title. And then I changed the formula, which we could show that later on. Instead of showing me all the titles, to just do a count of titles. And it's kind of like SQL. There's a way when you edit a column, you can actually edit the formula to change it. So we changed this column. Like if I hadn't have done that, it would have showed every single title. It would have been one of those reports with thousands of lines in it. And I changed the code behind the scenes to say, no, I just want to count. And so I got numbers. So that's a way to get around if there isn't a measurement field for what you want, there are ways to get a sort of a measurement like number. Okay.
So I can try to run, my reports should all be working, should only work with Trinity's instance, but I will try, I'll just see what it looks like when I run it here. So that's what you get when it's like, because I have filters that are based on Trinity's data and data model, and so like running it within Khan's instance, it's not going to bring the correct data. So bear with me for one moment while I switch over.
It also gives you a clue what you have to change to edit it for your library. So if Todd was to share that report with Khan and Wesleyan, they would know to change the library code from Watkinson to Lear Center or the music library or whatever other special library you wanted to do it on.
Yeah, see right there,
Let's see.
you should have waited like one more second.
Yeah.
If you do it too fast, you'll get that. Didn't log you anything.
Okay, there we go. So I can kind of try to go quickly through 3 reports. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. These are all for our, at Trinity College, Watkinson Special Collections Library. And so they're all, I kind of consider my reports kind of very workmanlike. They kind of they try to address a problem that comes up and tries to solve it just by doing maybe a quick analytics report. So the first one that I can do, let's see, let me actually get to the area. So for, I'm going to open up this one called like Watkinson Circ Stats. It's for Trinity College, for our main circulating collection, we anonymize patron data on a nightly basis. So we just, once an item's returned, it just kind of wipes the patron details from it. We keep the counts and so forth, but we don't keep the patrons' names and so forth for privacy. With the exception for that is Watkinson Special Collections, where we do keep the history, the transaction history of circulations. And for that, and we do that kind of for security, just to see like who's handled various objects and so forth. So with Alma, Watkinson started using the fulfillment or sort module piece of Alma just within their reading room. People aren't taking them out. We're checking out items, sometimes barcoding on the fly, checking them out, and just that way you get like a little history here. So I just built a quick report, and this what it does essentially is it's the Watkinson staff are able to run this on a periodic basis, and it gives you bibliographic data and so forth, like what items it was, and it'll give you actually like the date and timestamps and so forth of when the item was loaned out and when it was returned, and the patron information associated with that item. So that way they can run a report going back through all of their history from the beginning of Alma till now. I can also set up prompts to, if you want to do various date ranges, if they want to just look at the last month or something, they can do that. for this case, it's just showing like the entire history. That way, if there's like a damaged item or something like that, they can go back and look at who was handling that and so forth. So that's just one. So that's one report to kind of just deal with. They just wanted a way of sort of being able to track and kind of like keep records for sort of transactions of handling items. I'll go back. The other two are linked together in a sense. They're also for the Watkinson. The Watkinson recently mentioned they would like to they would like to start tracking items that they have put in exhibitions, and they want to be able to sort of track that through time, and just so that way you can see like just kind of a way to go back and see has this been in an exhibition before for different reasons. So what I did is within Alma, I activated a statistical category within the item record so that they now have the option to add like Watkinson exhibition in the item record and in a statistical note essentially in there. So I just built two quick reports, and one of them was they wanted to start with the most recent exhibition that they actually just had just taken apart and returned the items. Now they could have went back and kind of figured out what it was that they had, but they had already shelved them. So what I did is I built a report for this one's called Banco. It's for the name of the curator. Because what they did is they checked out or charged out all of the items that were in the exhibition to that curator. And so I was able to just quickly build a report based again on that historical Stirk data for the Watkinson. And I was able to get a bunch of get the results of all the items that that he had that this individual had placed within the exhibition that they had. So I passed this data on, so I included barcodes on MID so they could quickly get to the item and just add the stat note for those particular items. So that way it was able to, just a quick way, I just built the report within 10 minutes, which is a quick way for them to get the information to them without them having to kind of go back and try to figure out what items were in it that had already been shelved and so forth. Linked to that is the Watkinson exhibition report. So this is solving the problem of just a way of tracking now that they are marking all items that have been exhibitions in the stat note in the item record. This is a report that essentially goes in. It looks in all the stat notes. There's 3 fields, and it looks in all of them just in case the note was added in one particular field over another. In this case, I think they added them all to the first field. And so what we're able to do with this report going forward is kind of just track all items that have been in Watkinson exhibitions that have had that stat category added. As you can see, like the little peach tan column here, it just kind of indicates these all have the stat note added. So these are all, in this case, it was just essentially the same list as that first one I just showed, or the second one from the curator. It'll be growing over time as they do more exhibitions and so forth. So I just want to show kind of 3 quick reports, just kind of like something like possibilities of what you can do, sort of aspirational things of just kind of, in some cases, just quick things I was able to build in like 10 minutes or so, just to solve a problem that a unit or a department in the library was having, and they just wanted just a way of addressing it in a relatively quick manner that was able to bypass a lot of other routes and maybe like more circuitous routes of getting at the data. So those reports I have for this piece of the presentation. Any questions before we move forward?
How'd you get it to be that color?
In this case,
The result, the formatting?
yeah, I can actually go to criteria. And so let me just go back to it. And I actually, for this one, this is getting a little bit more complicated. I went to column properties, and actually what I did is a conditional format. So anytime that the value of exhibition is added to a stat category, I have it color it with this kind of sort of peach tan color and so forth. You can also do it just sort of like, you could from this style piece have the whole column be that, but I just wanted to do in case a note was added to like field 2 or field 3 instead of 1, it's just kind of like a quick way of highlighting. So it was conditional. So anytime that the value is present, it colors the column or the cell in that case with that color. Which again is a little more advanced what we were trying to accomplish at this point, but it's just an example of what you can do. Yes. Yeah.
I have a question. I think is really interesting for documenting the exhibition. How are you handling manuscript material or boxes that might be barcoded? Is there a way to highlight individual items from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. It'll be based on sort of what records are there. So like if we just have an item record for just kind of the whole box, then we would have to, I guess, just track it that way, and potentially also add like an internal note in addition with that saying like this particular document within the box or collection was the one that was an exhibition. So in this case, I just made one statistical category of just walk-ins and exhibition. We can get more granular. We could do it by exhibition. We could do it in various other ways as well. So, but in this case, they just kind of wanted a sort of a broader one that just kind of covers over time everything's that have been in the exhibition. So, but yeah, that's a good question. It kind of will depend on what you have available in terms of your data model and like if each things are cataloged as individual items or not within that collection, and you could potentially add an item at that point as well if you wanted to track it more granularly.
There are no other questions. We're going to take a quick 15-minute break. Get up and stretch a little bit. Okay, thank you, guys.